Welcome back. We are finally live again, and today we're going to talk about an awesome website. This is a real estate concept, and today we're talking about rounding off text edges and creating all sorts of effects that we've never discussed before. Let's just get into the demo. This is what we're going to be designing today. It is a complete website from start to finish, and it has these really nice rounded edge effects, and it's just one of those things which you see in these complicated Behance dribble sort of UIs and don't know how to do, and it carries on from that very modern nice concept, and it just takes you throughout the whole journey of finding your own house. And this next section is my absolute favorite. It has the white clean modern edge and so many different aspects that I'm really happy to talk about. This is the complete site that we're going to be designing today. It's a small site, it's a cute site, but most importantly, it is the site to make if you're looking for your first portfolio project, just getting started in UI UX design. This is going to be one of the projects that's just incredible to make, incredible to look at. Let's just go. The very first thing you need to have, of course, is Figma installed. If you don't yet have Figma installed, go to figma.com/downloads, download for yourself some Figma, and then you're going to have a screen that looks something like this. Click on create new and then create a new design file. I already have a design file that I want to use, and so I'm just going to close this one and open up the design file that I want to make my project in. Let's just get started. Alright, so while my file is opening, all of these images are from the Discord group. If you haven't joined us there yet, every link is in the description. Make sure to join our Discord community. It's the best place to be if you're a UI UX designer, and all of these images, everything that we use is present there completely for free, and it's super duper awesome there. If you're just starting to watch right now, make sure to click on the like button, make sure to subscribe, and let's just get started. Alright, so today we've built out two different UIs, and these are them. I'm now going to add an additional page. You don't have to do this if you're just starting. Alright, so the very first thing we need to take care of is obviously creating a new frame, and our frame is going to be 1280 pixels in width, because that is the width of this laptop screen, but height does increase to the point where it becomes scrollable. So we're just going to go ahead and create a new frame and make sure our desktop says MacBook Air. So 1280 pixels is our width. Height for the first one is 832, but it will expand just to accommodate scrolling. And the next thing we're going to make sure of is we have the colors right with us. So I don't think there's a lot of things you need to be worried about as far as colors are concerned. Just one shade of deep blue that we need to look at here, which is 18181B. So the color of blue that we're using here is 18181B for our very first frame, and I'm just going to make this frame a little bit bigger just so we can move around and accommodate everything inside of here. Let's create a new frame. And we're going to change the color in here to say 18181B. 18181B. Make sure to say hi in the chat. Let's just get started. Alright, and you can move this color around if you don't like it. I think it looks fine, and I'm just going to stick with the blue we're using for this one. Is this really the blue that we're using? I for some reason I doubt it. Anyways, this seems to be 11827, but either of these colors will do look good in this design. So the very first thing we need to take care of now is creating our navigation bar, and this navigation bar is basically holding two different elements. The first one is the logo, and the second one is your main call to action button. So we just have to make two different things. We're just going to get started by creating our logo. So we're going to go to plugins and widgets and search for Iconify. This is the best place if you want to get icons, and we're going to search for home. So we're going to get for ourselves a new home. Whichever logo you like, you can add over here. It's not really a specific thing that works. Any logo can work for this case. We're just going to make this smaller, place this right here, and zoom in. If your logo looks like this, you're going to go to the group and reduce the thickness of the stroke, and now this is going to make it really easy for me to see what's going on. Alright, the next thing we need to make sure of is we have a title for our brand. The brand name is Lux Interiors, and so we need to type that out. Again, I do want to mention that we're using a single font for this entire design, which doesn't happen that often, and I am such a huge fan of this font. Let me just type out Lux Interiors, and let's change the font to Fustat. This is a new font in Figma, and it's getting amongst my personal favorites, especially in the sans serif general font category, and it's just so nice, so perfect, so pretty. It does give you a couple of thicknesses to go along with, but I feel like regular is just perfect for this case. And the next thing we need to add is a main call to action button. So we're going to go right over here, and we're going to type out get started. This is the simplest thing you can do. Just type out get started. The font kerning and the way they've done G in this font is just excellent, and it's amongst my top fonts ever. So we're just going to right click and frame this selection, and this is going to be the simplest way to create a button. Add an auto layout, add a padding to the left and right, and then add a padding to the top and bottom. If at the bottom of the text you see a little bit of space left over, you can always adjust the font container. And then we're going to add a stroke. So this button does not have a fill, it only has a stroke, and we're going to make sure we add it. Then add a border radius just to make things nice and rounded. You can increase the width of the stroke of the button, but other than that, this looks fine. Alright, and I feel like this is going to be pretty much it on the things that we need to do to make this button happen. Just adjust the line height just so it looks perfect, and with that we're going to get these together in a group, get this button. So for the very first thing we need to of course make sure is the logo and the name of the brand are in one single group, because they need to stay together. So press shift and group them together by pressing on Ctrl G, and then we're going to get our main button and our logo or the brand name in a single group. Add an auto layout so that everything is aligned perfectly in the center. And now that we've taken care of that, we can actually start with our image. So the image in itself isn't as important as the way we position these. The very first thing we need to make sure is we have some text that stays on top of the image. So this text is going to be real estate simplified. Let's just go ahead and type this out. Real estate simplified. And it doesn't matter if your sentence case isn't looking really good, you can always select the whole text and change it to sentence case. And with that, we're going to increase the font size. Let's go ahead and do 64, and then if this seems too small, which it does, we can go up to 96, which is perfect, by the way. And we're going to make this smaller. Make sure to adjust your line height to a place where it looks good, and then also add a button. So this is going to be again the main call to action button. If your auto layout seems to not have a lot of space in between, you have to make sure everything has to be perfectly aligned in the center. And now we're going to copy our button from over here and paste it down here, and with that we have everything we need to get started. And I'm going to make sure to reverse the color on one of these. So I'm going to add a fill, change the color of the text to the blue that we've been using all this while, change this to medium if you need to, just so things are nice and visible, and you can change the text thickness for this one to medium as well. So we're just going to take this and change it to medium. The next thing we need to do is obviously add our image. We're going to go over here, create a rectangle really simply, place it in here completely, and start by adding an image. My favorite place in the world right now to get all sorts of stock images is Lumi, because it is a really awesome library which takes AI generated images, and it's relatively new, which means you get to essentially avoid the overused images that are found on Unsplash and Pexels and Pixabay. Alright, so the very first thing we need to look at is someone searching on a computer. So this is the very first image that we're looking for, and in this video we're going to also take a look at a little bit of the cool features of Lumi. So we're just going to search for computer surfing, something on these lines, and obviously this is the image that I'm talking about, and we're going to click on this. Make sure to import it inside of our frame. If your image looks weird or does not fit for some reason, the next thing the next step is actually going to be super useful for you. So let's just let this image load up. Right now it looks nothing like the image that we need it to look like. So this image basically needs to be flipped, and also it needs to be concentrated on the other end. So we're just going to go ahead, close this out, right click, and we're going to flip it horizontally. And I think that is going to be enough in terms of getting our image right. We are going to increase the width of our main frame, and now we're going to try to accommodate this whole shape. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do is, obviously in this image as well, we're going to add a border radius, and this border radius is going to be a high number. And now we're going to start by editing the shape of the image. So we're going to edit this object now, and this is going to be treated as a single object at this point. Now we're going to go to our pen tool and start by creating a simple shape, and every single time we create an edge, this edge is automatically going to get a border radius, which is guaranteed by Figma itself. So we're just going to give a simple ladder in here, and that's going to make sure we have a couple of rounded borders because we have added a border radius now. And then we're going to get rid of this point. Let's just see what happens if we get rid of it. I don't think that leads to many good consequences per se, so we're just going to have to just make this whole thing fit according to these lines that we've drawn. So we're just going to take each of these central lines and align them perfectly in this shape. And with that, check it out, you guys, we've gotten our very first rounded shape. Don't worry if it doesn't look like the rounded edge you want it to look like. When you start adjusting the border radius from this point on, things are going to look much smoother and much more like what you want them to look like. So this is going to be the point where things start looking up now. Alright, the next thing we need to take care of is obviously making these fonts thicker, because honestly this is way too thin right now. So we're going to change this to semi-bold, reduce the font size. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here, because we come here live every single Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m, 2 p.m, 5 p.m, and 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Alright, this looks perfect. The next thing that we need to take care of obviously is creating our next section. So with that, within like 15 minutes of streaming, we've completed for ourselves this complete UI. This looks awesome. And the next section we're designing is this one. This is the exquisite creations section. In my opinion, the most modern, timeless pieces ever. So we're going to create a simple frame, very simple stuff. Don't need to be worried about it at all. Don't worry if it exceeds your actual frame. You can always increase the size to fit everything. And the next thing we're going to make sure is we have a title and a description. We're going to go to the top, get this title, and start changing things up now. So you know what, let's just create our own title, and this is going to be Exquisite Creations and Crafting Timeless Interiors. Exquisite Creations. And now we're going to make sure our sentence case is actually set to sentence case. Change the thickness to semi-bold because that's what we're endorsing now. Change the font size to 64 and also add a description text, because why the hell not? We're going to copy and paste this once again, shift it above, and also add a description text, Crafting Timeless Interiors. Once you start doing white backgrounds and really dark texts, a really good point to give some relief to that whole crowded UI is to have some description text that's gray, and that just makes everything easy on the eyes. If this had been black or any shade of dark blue, it would be really difficult to tell apart what's important and what's not. And so it's really elegant to have a couple of description texts which are completely gray, especially on a white background. Make sure to like this video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and we come here live every single day, crafting timeless, every single Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m, 2 p.m, 5 p.m, and 8 p.m. Timeless interiors. Timeless interiors. Alright, and now we're going to change this to gray because we needed to, obviously. And we're also going to reduce the font size to 24. I need to go ahead with the shade of gray that I like. 9C, 9C, 9C is the gray that I'm using here. You can just copy the hex code entirely, change the font size to regular, and just reduce it until you're at a point at which you like it. Let's make it medium, and that should look nice too. This looks good. This looks good enough. The next thing that we need to make sure of here is we are having these images, this title and description, and then this button. So this is very, very simple stuff at this point. We're going to create a simple square. Make sure everything aligns perfectly. Add a border radius, add a title and description. So we're just going to copy this title and description, and paste it right here. And now we're going to change the font size for the title, and this is going to go down to a really, really small number. Let's do 34, and then we're going to increase the description size to 18. Let's bring this down, and then we're going to change this to say luxury living, interior architecture, whatever. And I'm just going to copy this text. You can pause the video at this point if you want to type it out yourself. Let's just copy the text and paste it back at where we're pasting text. We have increased the font size here a little bit, but at the end of the day, this seems to be the more elegant solution, so I'm just going to stick with it and also get more text to place inside. We're just going to get a couple of lines from here and paste them inside, matching the current style. Alright, and I feel like this is going to be reused a bunch of times now. You can reduce the font size here, but I'm not willing to go below 28 just because this is giving good feelings as far as UI is concerned. You could go down to 16 for the description text, and I think I am, but that's it. And now we're going to open up Lumi once again and get ourselves some images. So we're going to search for homes, and hopefully that'll give us some nice images to work with. Let's just keep on going until you are at a point where you like what you see. And I'm just getting this image now, and this does take a while, but at the end it's so worth it. Like, it's the perfect UI ever. You know what, I'm just going to get images inside of homes. Let's just get a couple other images. It doesn't really matter which image is placed, as long as there is an image to go for every single occasion. Alright, I just need to make sure we have our button at the very end before we start duplicating this section. So we're going to create a simple rectangle that goes at the very end. Make sure to give it a huge number as a border radius, just so it looks like a rounded off pill. Change the color for this button to yellow, because the color opposite to blue is yellow and orange in the color wheel, and it's just a really good shade to go with if you're confused on what colors to add, especially opposite of the navy blue that we've been using. Now we're going to go back to Iconify and get ourselves the arrow icon which we were using for next. So we're just going to go right here and search for next and get the icon that we need to have here. I feel like this is a good arrow, and we're going to get it outside of the frame. Make sure to press the shift key while resizing it. Make it as small as we need to. If your icon looks like this, do not worry. Make sure to reduce the size of the stroke, and then keep on reducing it until you reach a point where you're sure you need to place it inside. Change the color to either white or the shade of blue that we've been using. Either one of those works perfectly. And now that we have this system sorted out, we're going to group them together. Make sure to add an auto layout, and everything needs to be perfectly aligned in the center. Done. And now we're just going to copy and paste this once again. I feel like we missed out on placing this frame inside of the group, and that is making it difficult to reuse this component. So we need to obviously duplicate this a second time now. Change this image back up again, get Lumi, and then we're going to change interior image. So let's just search for a couple of images. I feel like this is a good image to work with, and I'm just fine with whatever I see for now, and we're going to import this inside. The next thing we need to make sure of is let's just let this load up, and while this is happening, make sure to click on the subscribe button. Make sure to like this video, and also keep designing. If you're looking for the perfect UI UX design community, it's the Discord group linked in the description. All of these images, everything that we use in all of these live streams can be found there. And obviously I come here live every single Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. 2 p.m., 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. It's so many times that I forget how to memorize them. Anyways, let's now think about the third box that we're building out. Copy and paste this, duplicate it out again. And we're obviously going to make sure this is outside of this frame, because this frame is too small for now, so we're just going to increase this frame. Once the frame accommodates everything that's inside of it, you can get this group back in here and make sure it covers up the entire width of this whole section. And now we're going to go to this section, place it right here, and also make sure the button is perfectly spaced apart. So these buttons always need to maintain their sizes, which is why when you add a button in here, you need to make it replace our previous button, because this button for some reason scaled up. And now we're just going to make sure this is perfectly aligned within the center of these two lines. And when that is done, I feel like that's a sure shot signal that we're done with this component. Just make sure to align everything well together, and select the group. And now we're going to change the image in here one last time. This is a concept inspired from the bento grid pattern. It's a very classical pattern, is going to stay timeless, one of the nicest, coziest things you can make ever. And I feel like cozy is the constant theme that we're running after, especially when you have some site that targets real estate, targets homes, targets that kind of side of things. And we're going to import one last image now. Alright, now that this image is almost imported, the next section that we're going to build out is this one, and this is my personal favorite section, just on account of how cute it looks. While we're talking about cute, it has been like 22 minutes since we started streaming, and we're already 2 sections in. Both of them look super duper cool, both of them look amazing. Like, this is completely awesome. And we're going to shift these above once again, just to make sure everything is perfectly centered, spaced apart, works well. Alright, and with that, our third section is also complete. The next thing that we're building out is obviously this section. Let's just create a frame for our next section, increase the width of the main frame. We're going to create a new frame, complete the entire width, and obviously make sure they are completely aligned together with the red line that appears when you stick two containers together in Figma. The next thing we need to make sure of is that we have an image and that you have some text to go along with it. So we're going to create an image right here and make sure everything is very well aligned, especially with both of these margins on the sides. Let's just make sure everything is perfectly aligned in here. If it isn't, you can just click on this button and this one, and it's going to make sure everything automatically is. Just take a look at what the border radius was on the last square, and that was 40, so we need to make sure this is 40 as well, just for a little bit of consistency. And now we're going to change this image back up again, so we're going to go to Lumi, of course, and search for one last, or I think the second last house image. I shouldn't be this confident this soon. Let's search for house images. This does take a while, but obviously we need to search for houses in the photos section, not illustrations. And as soon as I find something that I do like, which would be this one, we can start with our next section. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I come here live every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. and it is super duper awesome to have you guys here. Alright, the next thing we need to make sure of is we have some text, redefining luxury through innovation. And I feel like this text in itself is very similar to this text, so I'm just going to copy this text box, especially because it's going to save me a lot of manual labor of increasing font sizes, getting everything adjusted. The word is going to say redefining luxury through innovation, and the font size is going to stay the same. So we're going to change this text to say redefining luxury through innovation. The reason we haven't changed anything in here is because once you have something, that a component or a text style that runs consistently, you usually don't want to change it, so that everything just works well together. We're going to change this to the shade of blue that we've been using, and now we're going to start changing the shape. So we're going to go to the 3 dots and edit this object now, add a point with the pen tool. So you can type P on your keyboard and that's going to activate the pen tool for you, or select it from the menu down below, and then we're going to create a very very simple shape. Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect, the border radiuses and the roundedness will come automatically once we enable the border radius feature in itself again. And we're just going to make sure everything is perfectly aligned. If you get rid of this, the goal here is to get rid of this point, but if you do, it'll just remove the image entirely, which is not something we want. And so we're going to make sure that this is placed perfectly. So we just put this right here and also do this once again. And with that, check this out you guys, this actually looks kind of awesome. Alright, and the next thing I need to talk about here is this image looks like it has a lot of content that's getting lost because of the text here. Now Lumi, the place from where we've gotten this image, actually has a really cool feature to accommodate for things like this sort of happening. So we're going to search for this image, of course, and then we're going to go to the image that the place where we need to import the image, which is rectangle 3. Go to tools and effects and select reframe, and now you're going to see what I'm talking about. So with this enabled, you're going to get an image where most of the stuff is concentrated towards one of the corners. So I feel like this could be one of the things that we could do just to make sure everything is perfectly wide. I feel like this is good enough, at least for now. We can obviously make it a little bit smaller, but this looks fine. And now we're going to click on plus, and hopefully this is going to give us a really nice looking image. I feel like it did the same thing it just did, like nothing changed at all. Let's add this image and hope the things that get cut off are only forests. For some reason this is still not working. Let's try to do this one more time, and then I'm going to switch the images just to see what works and what doesn't. It was working last night. I have no idea why it's just choosing to give me the same image back again. Alright, let's just get rid of this image and let's search for another image. This looks fine, and we're just going to wait for it to import. The goal here is to have the least amount of house area get cut off by this. We're going to make this as big as we need to, reframe this to be wide. You know what, let's just reframe this to be square, and I'm just trying something different now. Let's try this. Make it square and then have it concentrated in this corner. Let's see what this does, because there are a couple of things you can do just to make this happen. And I think we need to crop this image out now because it does have a lot of space, but it needs to be utilized correctly. And check this out you guys, with that literally the smallest amount of area is getting cut out because of our text, and that's exactly what we want. So you just import an image with the reframe option. And the last thing that I didn't take care of was the cropping. But when you do crop your image, you're going to get really really nice looking results where literally the smallest amount of house area is getting cut off, and you're getting the nicest, largest results for your UIs. Alright, the next section that we need to take care of is obviously our connect with us section, and this is going to be super duper fun to build just on account of how modern and clean this is. Again, I feel like we've alternated. The reason this UI design works so well, and I'm off on a tangent here, I know, is because UI design often needs balance, and as the larger the balance you can provide in terms of what's modern and what's new, what's innovative and what's always classic, I feel like you're going to do as that is quite proportionate to how well you're going to do as a UI designer. This concept is a little bit new. This concept, the bouncy text padding concept, is a little bit rarer to see. And then you have this timeless, simple, classic masterpiece of a section where you have all of these sections listed out without any cool effects whatsoever. And then you have this really nice cool effect. And then the next section that we're building out is quite honestly the most classic all-time modern normal sections you'll ever see. And the reason this looks so good is only because the white space and the execution is on point here. So I feel like having one section that screams bold, one section that screams personality, and then the other that screams serenity is really what sets you apart as a UI designer, when you're able to balance both of these elements out in a way where everything looks good. All right, so the next thing we're going to make sure is, let's create for ourselves this section. Obviously, let's now create two different sides. So we're going to create a frame now, and again we're going to make sure it aligns perfectly with the last frame. We're going to select this, make sure everything aligns perfectly, and we're going to create two different sections, one of which is going to hold our form. So this height is going to be 832, and that's going to be stagnant. Now we're going to create a new frame, and when you see the red line on the right side, that indicates you've touched half of the width, which is perfect, which is exactly what you need to do. Alright, and now we're going to go back to Lumi and search for one final interior image of a house, just so we have something to show. So we're going to type out interior, and obviously we're going to get ourselves this really nice looking image, the exact same one which you are using over here. And once we have that, again you can just search for these exact words and get the exact same images that I'm using. That is the power of having our very own Lumi working with us. And I'm going to wait for this to load up. While this is loading up, we're going to start with our title and description, which you can find right here. So we're just going to get them from the top and copy and paste them right here. Alright, so let's just go back to our previous section, close this up, and get our title and description, which is in the exquisite creations section. So we're just going to copy this, and then paste them back again, and then bring them down, and then place them both right here. So this is going to be our contact me section. Let's just go down and type out connect with us. Again, not much really changes in here. This text changed from gray to black, but I feel like gray would be a better fit still, so I'm not going to change it. Change this to say connect with us. Alright, and now that we have that sorted out, we're going to place this right here. Change the text to your vision, your expertise. Let's just go down, get this text, copy it. If you want to type it out, pause the video, type it out. I'm just going to copy this text, and then we can style it at the time of execution. We're going to paste this right here, and obviously you could increase the font size, but I feel like this is good enough. The next section we're building out is these actual form holders. So each element inside of a form, full name, enter your name, email, enter your email, and this is very similar to the buttons which we've been building. So let's just see the buttons that we've built out up until now, and then copying those buttons is going to help us simplify the form in itself. You know what, let's just create our own buttons, because I feel like these are just a little too different. Let's zoom in, and we're going to type out name. Everything is going to be capital now, so you can turn on your caps lock, change the font size to 16, and with that we're going to create a new name container. Copy and paste this in here. Once again, right click and frame our selection, add a new layout, and then this is going to be the same for the width and also the height. Again, these fields are created once, and then they're sort of staying the same throughout whatever you do. And we're going to just place this right here. Make sure to add a stroke. You know what, let's just add a fill first, and then we can see where we go from there. Add a light shade of gray, very light shade of gray, just to show that there is a place for you to enter everything. Let's change this to say full name, F-U-L-L. You know what, let's just get rid of the caps lock for a moment. F-U-L-L-N-A-M-E. I feel like I need to change this to sentence, from caps lock to sentence case, which happens directly in Figma. And then we're going to go to this text, snap it out of our frame, and this is going to make it free of the constraints of auto layout, and then change it to say enter your name. So we're just going to bring this down, add a border radius because we forgot about it obviously, and change this text to say enter your full name. So we're going to go right here, change this to say enter your full name. Let's change this to obviously sentence case once again and reduce the font size to 14. Bring this down, make sure everything is perfectly aligned in the center, change this to be gray, and I feel like this is good enough as a reusable component. And then we're going to get all of these together, group them in one, and then duplicate them once again for our email ID. Let's get email ID and then enter your full email ID. Let's just type out email ID. And with that, we have our second section done as well. And now we're going to duplicate this one last time and increase the height of this container, because this is the time where we're taking messages with us. So we're going to go right here and increase the width completely. Again, this is going to take up the entire width for us. Change the text to say message. Alright, and now we're going to create one final button for sending the message. So this is going to be again really simple. We're going to go back to the top and get ourselves a new button. You know what, now that we're talking about it, I feel like this yellow would just do really great in front of our main call to action button. Like, this actually looks quite nice if we got rid of the stroke and made this text a little bit thicker. Let's change this to semi bold, make sure everything is taking the amount of height it should, and I feel like this looks really nice. So we're just going to copy this button, go back down, change this at the bottom and add our button here with us in our contact form. And again, we're going to select all of these at once, shift them above by a couple of pixels, and we're going to shift them above as well. This is, I think this is enough. And then we're going to change this text to say send message. If your text is all capital, you can change the text case to sentence case as well. And with that, we have our next section ready. And the last section we're building out for today is our footer section. So we're just going to go to the bottom and create a simple footer. We're going to go right here and drag this guy out, create a simple footer. Make sure it takes up the entire width of our whole frame. If it just got lost inside of another nested frame, make sure to drag it outside, give it the entire width and height that you need to, and then we're going to start working on our footer. So this footer is going to stay in the exact same color which we've been working with. We're going to get the title for ourselves and all of these links, and then the social media icons. Now the title is at the top, so we're going to go to the top, and this looks like a really nice site, and I'm going to get the logo with me as well, just because it would look nice. We're going to send this back up here, change the color to navy blue, change this to 28, group it together, and also we're going to add a bunch of links. Let's change this to semi bold, and now we're going to add a bunch of links. Now all of these links are going to have the thickness of medium. Change this to about us, our work, and then the social media handle as well. Let's bring this down to regular just because we need to. About us, our work, and add the social media handle as well. And also the last section is going to say get in touch. So we're just going to copy and paste this right here one final time and have it say get in touch. Again, we're going to add an auto layout to these change each of these to have a much smaller font size. Let's bring this down to 20. And obviously we're going to go to our frame and make sure the spacing is good enough to work. Align this perfectly in the center of our frame. Why is it not aligning in the center? Let's just get this aligned in the center and also reduce the spacing in between each of these. And now we're going to add a couple of icons. So we're going to go back to Iconify, and this is going to give us our icons. Let's add the icons. The first is going to be obviously Instagram. And also X. Again, it's really difficult to find the X icon when you type X. It's often recommended to just search for Twitter and get yourself the X icon you need. Change this to Twitter now. Sorry, change this to YouTube now. Get an icon which you like, and obviously we're going to change the last one to say Facebook. Let's get this outside, and now we're going to select all of these at once. Bring this down. And obviously we're going to reduce the width. We're going to add an auto layout, so we're going to group them together first and then add a layout. This is to make sure everything is perfectly aligned. Reduce the spacing in between all of these. Put them right here. And again, if it feels weird, or if the size seems different to you, you can obviously change the size for each of these at once by yourself. Again, you can press the Alt key to make sure the spacing on both of the sides is equal. So if the spacing in here is 93, you can obviously press the Alt key and make sure your spacing is equal on the other side as well. So we're going to shift it around and make sure it's also set to 93. And now we're going to add a final line at the bottom. This is our final divider before we add our privacy policy and all of the legal stuff. So this is going to have 2024 Lux Interiors, all rights reserved, and then all of these other things. Let's just get this, let's just take this line, shift it below, and obviously we're going to select all of these at once, shift them below, and now we're going to get our text in here. So we're going to copy our first text, paste it back at the bottom, change this to say copyright, let's just add the copyright icon, 2024 Lux Interiors, all rights reserved. And then we're going to add 3 other links for the terms and service, privacy policy, and one last thing, terms. Obviously we're going to copy this 2 other times, change this to say privacy policy, and the last one has to be cookie preferences. This last one is going to say cookies. And now we're going to just get all of them together, put them in an auto layout just so everything is perfectly aligned together. And with that, we have our perfect frame with us. So we're just going to put this at the center. And with that, check it out, you guys. Within like an hour, within less than an hour of doing this, we have created for ourselves this super duper awesome UI. Let's just present it, change the prototype settings to the MacBook that we've been using. We'll get rid of both of these because we don't need them anymore. And obviously we're going to present it. Check it out, you guys. This actually looks quite incredible. Like, I would push this to production, and I would quite honestly add this to my own portfolio as well. It looks, honestly, it looks great. because it has this one funky section, and then this one modern all-time classic section, and then another funky section, and then another all-time classic sort of section. This looks like one of the nicest interiors we've done in a really long time. Alright, so I'm just going to share this prototype with everyone who's watching. This is going to be found in the live stream chat. Let's just put this right here and you can find it in the top chat. Again, this is one of the nicest things we've done in a really long time. If you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. I will see you in the next stream, which happens at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Until then, keep on designing and goodbye.